How's it going, Yankee fans? Welcome back to Fireside Yankees with your boys, Alex and Ryan. Lots going on in Yankee land. DJ LeMahieu, frequent flyer on the IL, is back on the injured list. Maybe not yet, but I think he probably will end up there. Going to discuss LeMahieu's recent injury, third base position battle, Will Warren, Marcus Stroman, Luis, a lot of injuries we have to catch up on, dude. Not to mention Giancarlo Stanton getting PRP injections in both elbows and obviously having the personal issue that is still not situated. So lots of things unfolding. The Yankee offense is in question. They got enough firepower. Could they use more? We're going to discuss all of these things. And we have a new sponsor on the podcast, Ryan, BetUS. So we're going to do a little ad read in about 5 minutes here where we can get things kicked off for the next couple of weeks. Appreciate you guys always tuning into Fireside Yankees. But Ryan, before we dive into it, how you doing today, my friend?
Things are interesting because on one hand, again, cool that we're getting closer to opening day. It's March. We're, I think, 24 days away from the Yankees hosting the Milwaukee Brewers for their season opener at Yankee Stadium. I think they'll also be presented with their AL championship rings. So, I know that that's not a World Series ring, but it'll be cool for the players, I guess. With that being said, though, yeah, it's not necessarily like a wave of great news coming out of Yankee camp. The LeMahieu shoulder injury, I think, is clearly the most devastating one because we don't know the severity of it. We should find out today. Aaron Boone mentioned that, it would be more of a Monday situation. Shoulders are scary. I think shoulders are probably the single scariest. I'd even argue more so than the elbow because shoulder injuries for pitchers seem to nag. There isn't like a one-all fix kind of solution. With elbows, it's Tommy John, and then, yes, there's a long recovery and a long road back to the big leagues after Tommy John, but it is still cleaning it up. You know what I mean? It's still making sure that things are better, or your elbow is intact and everything's good there. What concerns me, though, with that shoulder is it going to be something that, can he recover from it and then have it quiet down throughout the entire season? I'm not sure. We saw Clark Schmidt deal with the shoulder problem last year, and I feel like when he came back, his command was not really the same as when it was before the injury. I referenced Frankie Montas as another example of someone who dealt with shoulder problems, and he did not look like himself since those shoulder issues in 2022 that happened with the A's, not even with the Yankees, it happened with the A's, then comes over and then they start barking again and he pitched really poorly. So I have a lot of concerns and question marks about that shoulder thing. We'll find out more today. Hopefully it's something serious. Hopefully, we can look back on this and go, it's not a big deal. But that's obviously not ideal. Then Stanton starting on the injured list. You and I said it, like if it's PRP injections, no surgery required, not a tear or something like that, we'll take it. And I think you and I will take PRP injections with the guy coming back to Tampa this week to get things ramped up. It's fine that he's starting the year on the IL. I'm not really too worried about it because the DH spot, Stanton had a 116 WRC plus last year in the regular season. Where you got the most production from Stanton was in the postseason. So I'm not too concerned with replenishing the regular season performance as much as I am making sure I have him for the postseason. I will kind of get into my lineup concerns a little bit later from the right-handed side, but the last injury that happened was the injury to DJ LeMahieu, who took, I think, like 3 swings and then got hurt immediately. And Alex, I want to be respectful and, not disparage a player who has done a lot of good for the Yankees throughout his time here, but has just not been able to stay healthy since 2022. Like, I think he's done. I think this shit is the nail in the coffin for DJ LeMahieu. He is done. It's another injury. It's another lower body injury. His foot hasn't ever healed the same. His calf, he tweaks it swinging. He looked bad in his 2 at-bats as well. He's looked bad during live at-bats. I don't think the Yankees ever really had much confidence in him to start. I think it was all a mirage, all a facade. If you talk about the reasons why the Yankees believe in DJ LeMahieu, I think there are 30 million reasons they like DJ LeMahieu. So, Alex, I'm not at the point where I particularly feel good about third base, and I definitely do not feel good about where DJ LeMahieu's at, and I don't think he should be on the team. I think they should treat it like Josh Donaldson in 2023. He got hurt, they kept on the IL for a while, picked up some insurance money, and then cut him. That's how this should go here.
Yeah, and listen, so Ryan, I'm going to start doing a new kind of theme in our episodes, and because I'm a new dad, I have to throw in a dad joke of the week. And my dad joke of the week, Ryan, is what's the difference between, or I guess what's the similarity between a nice freshly grilled lamb chop and DJ LeMahieu?
I don't know if there is one, man. They're both cooked.
Both are
well.
cooked. Both are cooked. That's my dad joke of
I've
the
actually
weekend.
never had lamb chops. Fun fact, I've never had a lamb chop.
You are missing out, good sir.
I am.
Lamb chops
very
are
picky eater.
fantastic. Well, yeah, if you're a picky eater, lamb chops are a very specific flavor. They're very,
Yeah.
very gamey in a way. But a well-grilled lamb chop, you'll just change your whole day. And if you're a viewer of the podcast, a fan of the podcast, and you like lamb chops, let us know in the comment section. And with no further ado, shout out to our sponsor, BetUS. We're going to be placing a nice little bet today on the MLB leader in home runs for the 2025 season. I think this is a pretty good bet, Ryan, and it's Aaron Judge. He has the, I guess, lowest odds, theoretically, but plus 350 for Aaron Judge to lead the MLB in home runs this upcoming season. Shohei Ohtani's at plus 500. Kyle Schwarber is at plus 1,000 as their third option. Soto's at plus 1,800. I think Judge plus 350 is a good bet. If he stays healthy, I think he's hitting the most home runs in the league this year. And guys, BetUS, our new sponsor, 150% match up on a deposit of up to $2,000. 150% on $2,000. They have the fastest payout in the industry in live support at your fingertips. So shout out to BetUS. But guys, diving back into the DJ LeMahieu situation, it's not exactly something you want to be finding yourself in for the Yankees at third base because Oswald Peraza, Oswaldo Cabrera, this morning there was a report by Eric Boland of Newsday saying that Cabrera is probably going to be the starter going into the season. The reason for that is pretty simple. The Yankees know what they have in Oswaldo Cabrera. He's a great defender at third base, and he's a below average offensive piece, but if he can get to league average, I think they'll be happy with that. I think that you can recreate Nolan Arenado. If you can get to 100 WRC plus from Oswaldo Cabrera, that's Nolan Arenado right there because his defense is going to be just as good at this point in time. I think he had 7 defensive runs saved in like 500 innings last year at third, which is like really freaking good. So I do think that there's upside, but I don't think Cabrera gets to 100 WRC plus. I think he's more like a 90 type of guy, and you can live with that until you get an upgrade. I still do think we need an upgrade there. But Peraza's having a pretty good spring. How do you see this third base position battle unfolding right now? I do think that Cabrera likely wins the job, but Peraza has looked solid. Not much power there, but neither does Cabrera. He's been punching singles into the outfield, and that's useful. How do you foresee the next couple of weeks unfolding as the regular season rolls around?
Yeah, I'm still firmly of the opinion that Oswald Peraza isn't very good, and I hate to be the Debbie Downer of the infield situation, but I feel good about Cabrera's ability to play against right-handed pitching. I think I've warmed up to it, just kind of looking more at the platoon data. As you mentioned, he is a brilliant defensive third baseman. If only right-handed pitchers exist, and I know I'm doing Mr. If Man right now, but if right-handed pitchers were the only pitchers who existed, Oswaldo Cabrera would be a pretty good third baseman. We'd look at him and say he could start. The problem is left-handed pitchers do exist. They're common, they're frequent, not as common as right-handed pitchers, but the Yankees as a whole, their problems kind of reflect their third base problem. They're very good defensively. They are going to hit right-handed pitching very well. They cannot hit left-handed pitching. I'm firmly convinced they cannot hit left-handed pitching as currently constructed. I'm going to read off to you their supposed or kind of their projected starting lineup. And this is from Fangraphs. Josh Chisholm, worse against lefties and righties. Judge, he's better against lefties. Judge is going to hit everyone, though. I'm not concerned there. Bellinger's pretty even splits. I feel decent about his ability to hit lefties and righties. I'd actually encourage the Yankees to hit him fifth, so that the Yankees could have either Jazz or Wells hit six, and you can, because you're going to have to stack lefties in this lineup. It's just something you're going to have to do. Goldschmidt can hit lefties. I think the longer we go into the offseason, the better the Goldschmidt contract kind of ages, because the Yankees need to be able to hit lefties, and he can hit lefties. That's a win. Wells, I don't think he can hit lefties as of right now. He'll have to prove it to me. He's young enough that he can prove it to me, but he's got to prove it. He's got to show it. I haven't seen that from him yet. And so until I see it, I'm going to believe that I'm not going to rely on his ability to do it. I think there's a difference between can't do it versus I won't expect him to do it, and I won't expect Austin Wells to do it. Volpe last year had very even splits against lefties and righties, evenly not very good, although in his career he has 102 WRC plus. I'll take the career long sample size over the shortened sample size of play. Rice is not as good against lefties as he is against righties. Dominguez is not as good against lefties as he is against righties. And then as we mentioned with Cabrera, he's not as good against lefties as he is against righties. So the Yankees, in my opinion, need to add a right-handed hitting infielder and then a right-handed hitter for the bench. And what I would propose, and I think this isn't the worst idea in the world, nor is it the most unrealistic, is for the Yankees to, okay, you're backup catcher is going to be JC Escarra. Ben Rice makes the roster as a DH. Trent Grisham makes the team because he's a major league guy. He's got guaranteed money. You can only cut him by DFAing him. I think Peraza will make the team if LeMahieu's hurt. I think that like you just don't have infielders. There's only so much you can do. And that last spot, I'm throwing it towards like a hitter, just a hitter, because Grisham can play all over the outfield. Rice is a DH, yes, but he can play first base. Escar can play first base. Goldstrick can play first base. Bellinger can play first base. I don't need a backup first baseman because I have it on my roster. Peraza can play short, second, and third, so I don't need a backup shortstop. I have one. Don't need a backup second baseman. I have one. Don't need a backup third baseman. I have one. The last spot should just be the best right-handed hitter the Yankees can find on the market. I'm not saying it's got to be JD Martinez. As a DH, I kind of get why they're not going to give him money. Like what happens when Stanton's back? The guy's just useless, and you don't want a useless player on your team. And you don't want to have to cut a guy making $5 million a year in that year because the Yankees have to pay about $9 or $10 million to have that player when you add on the luxury tax. If you could get, whether it's a trade for right-handed hitter, we talked about Jose Iglesias as like the right-handed infielder option. I would like double up and get like a Ramon Arias. Like I'd try to get Iglesias and a Ramon Arias because Ramon Arias can DH. He's not as good of a defender as Iglesias, Cabrera, or Chisholm, but he's shown the ability to be capable out there. He won't be a useless dead weight player when Stan comes back because if Iglesias is old and washed, you can play Arias in Iglesias' role. If Cabrera isn't very good, you can play Arias in Iglesias' role. And then when Stanton comes back, the guy you cut is Oswald Peraza. And I think that's how that should be. I don't think Oswald Peraza belongs on a major league roster when you're trying to contend for a World Series. Now, I hope he proves me wrong. Ideal world, Cabrera smashes and Peraza is great against lefties. And we're like, remember when we thought Peraza wasn't very good? Or remember when Ryan thought Peraza wasn't very good? That'd be great. That's what I want to happen. I'm rooting for the Yankees to get good outcomes, but I don't want to expect things that are kind of unreasonable. And I think that's kind of where I'm at. I want the Yankees to get two bats. I want to write two right-handed bats. If it's a minor league deal for like an Adam Duvall, like I know Joel Sherman talked about that, I'd even take that. Like he can hit lefties. He has a career 104 WRC plus against them. I know it's not a crazy high number, but what you can do is against lefties, put Dominguez at DH, Duvall in like left field, or Judge at DH and Duvall in right field. And Duvall's a pretty solid defender. Last year, he was awful. Last year, 58 WRC plus, but against lefties, a 135 WRC plus. He just had a 12. This is crazy. He had a 12 WRC plus against right-handed pitching last year. But great, we don't need him. Guess what we don't need him to do? Hit right-handed pitching. Against lefties over the last 3 years, he is really good. He's hit them well in his career. I think that ultimately, when you're talking about a player who can kind of come in for cheap and hit, he works. If you get Duvall and Iglesias, I get it. It's the unction. It's a 36-year-old and a 35-year-old to plug roster holes. But I don't think the Yankees need to be. I understand why the Yankees aren't looking to ball out to get a player who's going to play like, I'd say 20% of reps. I mean, how many innings do left-handed pitchers eat compared to right-handed pitchers? Let's say it's 30% of reps. Get 30% of reps at a position. If you want to pay only minor league money for that, I get it. I don't think Pereira should be in that conversation either. He's had a more impressive spring training than Peraza, in my opinion, just because he's not striking out as much and he's actually hitting the ball hard. Like, he has a 26% strikeout rate and a 180 WRC plus. I'll take it. But coming back from the elbow, man, it's just tough for me to kind of buy into that. It's also spring training. You don't want to overreact that hard. So, Alex, I know I threw a lot of ideas out there, but, I want two bats now. I want, whether it's a minor league deal or a major league deal, I don't really care, but I want an infielder who's right-handed, and I want a guy who can play the field every now and then who's also right-handed.
I can't believe the Yankees didn't sign Brendan Rodgers to a minor league deal. Like, I can't believe that was a missed opportunity. But yeah, Everson Pereira with the elbow, he's looking really good, really sharp offensively. He's got good power, this kid. Now, Aaron Boone was asked recently about his role and if he has a chance to win a starting job, and Boone pushed it off and was like, we're not there yet. He hasn't even started hitting the ball, or rather defensively getting reps. So he's just DHing right now. And that is going to limit Pereira's upside here. He could DH, right? But I think they prefer Ben Rice at this point at DH over Pereira. But if Ben Rice struggles, you might see Pereira get an opportunity in the majors. So I think that there's a lot of things still, a lot of storylines still unfolding in real time. But I want to talk about Stroman and Will Warren as well. So now that Luis Gil is going to be out for a little bit of time, Stroman's value is something now. Like, he doesn't have zero value, but I actually have a take. And my take is that I'd rather see Will Warren than Marcus Stroman pitch for the Yankees in the number 5 spot. Stroman gave up back-to-back homers against the Braves, Riley, and Matt Olson, and spring training doesn't mean much to me, so I really don't care about performances like that. Giving up a couple runs, whether he's trying to test some new stuff out, just kind of warming up. But Will Warren has shown like tangible results that have raised some eyebrows. I think his velocity with his fastball looks good. I think he reintroduced that curveball. I think his breaking stuff looks tremendous. His slider looks really, really good. And the fastball is being located really well, high inside in the strike zone, forcing batters to, shorten their swing and basically just catch it off guard. Like, I just think Warren looks like a confident pitcher right now and that he's trying to attack. And I think that's what you could learn from Garrett Cole, Ryan, is that good pitchers attack early in counts. They want to get ahead. They want to put you on the defense. Warren last year, and he made a really good point. He said, I was playing from behind a lot of times last year. I found myself behind in the count. Now I'm trying to throw strikes and get ahead in the count and give myself advantage. It's all about, it's a game of cat and mouse being a pitcher and a batter. You are trying to get the advantage, get the leverage in any given at-bat. Warren's trying to get the early advantage in every at-bat. So I think that will play well for him as we progress here, Ryan. But how do you feel about Stroman's role and Will Warren's role? I'd rather see Warren be the number 5 now than let Stroman play because we owe him a little bit of money and he has experience. Because I think one guy's on the rise and needs the reps. Another guy's on the decline is going to be off this team next season, if not sooner than that.
I think it's a really interesting take. So kind of where I have trouble, like I want to clarify, I fully agree that if we were making this a 5th starter battle, which it should be, because that's how things should work in a perfect world, Will Warren's leading the charge. Will Warren has been more impressive than Stroman. We haven't gotten StatCast reads of Marcus Stroman, but hasn't looked particularly impressive. And based off last year's velocity decline, I am of the opinion that this guy isn't going to be very productive in 2025. With that being said, Marcus Stroman needs to be built up and remain as a starter. Not because he said it, but because the Yankees need bodies. The Yankees need guys who exist in a vacuum and who can pitch. And we always talk about rotation log jams. Rotation log jams don't get sorted out by performance. They often get sorted out by injury. And I hate putting this out there and putting this bad omen out there, but we are on March 3rd, guys. This is the most common time of year for guys to get hurt. We're not even 2 weeks away from the opening day. We've got 24 more days of this and a whole 162 game season. I think this is a situation that, just like the rotation before, just like with Stroman and the rest of the 5 projected starters, it will sort itself out through injury. That is something the Yankees have to live with. It's unfortunate, Alex, that as you mentioned, Warren will likely not get the job over Stroman because of the money owed to Stroman. But at the same time, I get that the Yankees do not want to have a situation where their 5th starter or their 6th starter, let's say it's Stroman in this situation and Warren is the 5, that their 6th starter is not built up to pitch and kind of come in and step in and deliver 6 or 7 innings. Don't want that. And then look at the depth chart. So you can't carry Yoendrys Gomez in AAA. He has to make the team. And I don't really trust him to start, but he is considered a starting pitcher, so let's roll with it. He'll have to go join the team as a reliever. So he won't be built up to start. Got to cross him off. JT Brubacher fractured his ribs, so your 7th starter is also out. Got to skip him. He's not going to be ready for opening day, most likely. Let's look at the rest of the depth chart. Brent Hedrick, the Yankees have used him as a reliever. I view him as a reliever. Then you got Carlos Carrasco and Alan Winans and Sean Boyle. Like, these are non-roster invites. These guys aren't good. This is when you're in the territory of, like, they're not. Marcus Stroman is a below average major league starter. Carlos Carrasco and Alan Winans may not be major league starters. So that's kind of the spot where we're at now. It's unfortunate. It sucks for the Yankees, but I think they're going to keep Marcus Stroman as the 5th starter because they just, like, the logistics of it don't really make sense if they want to have a 6th starter in 2025. They also have to kind of pray Luis Seal isn't hurt for a very long time because that could get things complicated. But what I will say is what the Yankees should be willing to do, and this is something that they have to have a pretty quick, this is where the Yankees have to kind of show that they're a good organization. If Stroman has a really bad month of April, like he looks horrendous, got to take him out of the rotation, and you got to bring up Will Warren. That's got to happen. I'm giving Stroman the month of April, to really get it going. I'm going to say, hey, you know what? You're a veteran. It's spring training. You're just working on things. That's exactly what's happening. You're just not throwing that hard yet. You're not going all out yet. You're just figuring things out. But come the month of April, if that ERA is, or come the month of May, if that ERA is 6, 5, Will Warren, your time, buddy. He said he's a major league starter. He said he doesn't have to compete. Fine. Cool with me. You better show it in the regular season. Yeah, exactly. Prove it. It's on him to prove it. The Yankees are in a bind with their Ross situation. They don't have a lot of flexibility there. It's a tough spot for the Yankees to be in because I think they agree with you. I think if you ask Brian Cashman behind closed doors, who do you want to start for you? Say Will Warren. He'd say Will Warren tomorrow. I promise you that.
Yeah, and that's kind of where you run into the problem is like you want to keep Stroman happy, and I think that's probably the way they go in, the direction they go in is that they give him that month and be like, all right, you don't want to compete, you don't want to be a bullpen piece. What are you like? Go prove that you're capable of being a good starter then. And if he struggles, if he suffers the consequences of declining velocity and age and injury, you got to turn the page and eat the money because it's 1 year and done. You have to cap him 140 innings anyway. You can't let him pitch over that because of the 2026 player option that gets triggered. So he now becomes your number 6 or number 7 even, right? When Luis Gil comes back, he becomes your number 7. He's your number 6 with Will Warren. And look, injuries happen. Like Stroman's going to end up pitching this year if they do not trade him. He's going to end up playing a good amount. He could pitch 100 innings this year, which is not crazy to consider by any means. And it's only because other injuries will pop up. Things will happen. So Yankees have a lot of depth. I don't think they're going to end up trading Stroman because I don't think he has any value to other teams. I just don't see a team. You can look at Andrew Heaney or like another crappy arm off the market, Jose Quintana, to give you probably better results than Marcus Stroman for the same exact cost. So that's kind of where I look at the situation and say, there's no market for Stroman. And the Yankees probably understand that now. And now they have an injury, and you never know what's going to happen long term or with other guys. So, we'll keep things kind of mulled over in that respect, but we'll keep an eye on it. Other than that, though, roster trimming has started to, kind of go underway. And, one of the guys they did send back to minor league camp is Sean Boyle, who had a pretty solid start to the season, the spring training at least, with the Yankees. And, I think he pitched like 5.2 innings of scoreless ball, so looked pretty good. We'll keep an eye on him in the minors, but they send a couple of catchers back down. I think Ben Rice has looked pretty solid as a backup catcher so far. Haven't been like overly concerned. This team, positives though, Cody Bellinger's hitting the crap out of the ball, dude. Really love his swing. Man, his swing is beautiful to watch. It looks so effortless. Pulls the ball really nicely. Paul Goldschmidt looking pretty solid so far. I like him as well at this point. Offensively has had some good action. Who else has been standing out? Dominguez is struggling a little bit. Obviously, he made a catch in left field. That's a positive. We love that. So a little bit of a trend in the right direction for him. But offensively, he's still finding his groove. Give him some time. Not worried about it. Spring is for ups and downs. Spencer Jones hitting the crap out of the ball. Another guy I wrote about, I think it was Ben Rice. You posted a tweet about him yesterday. Maybe it was yesterday, 2 days ago. He has the 2 hardest hit balls of his career this spring. That muscle or poundage he's put on is very good, seemingly. He's hitting the ball really hard. What do you think? How do you think that translates? I think he is the DH right now without Stanton. And I think if he makes good contact, when he makes contact, the ball's getting absolutely smoked.
Yeah, Ben Rice taking a page out of the Steve Smith Jr. book and just pounding right now, man. He's got 113.3 miles an hour. 111.1 was his career max, which he set, as you mentioned, against the Twins earlier this week. And then he hit that 113.3 mile per hour laser beam of a home run. Dude, I'm going to read off his batted balls in spring training thus far. 113.3, 111.1, 105.5, 100.5, 99.5, 99.2, and then 59.9. Ben Rice has hit only one ball below the hard hit marker, which is 95 miles per hour or up. This guy has been unbelievable in spring training in terms of just like the underlying metrics. And that added mass, I think, is really doing a lot of good for him. I know that Ben Rice is a talented hitter. We've drummed that up. We've talked about him being a guy who can contribute, and this is his lane. We've actually, If I'm going to be honest. I'm pretty sure we've talked about an exact scenario where Stanton gets hurt and Ben Rice gets his chance to prove himself. Time is now. And, he's someone who projections love, underlying data loves, and a lot of those warning track fly balls. And I tweeted about it. I got cooked for it a little bit, won't lie. A lot of people were like, well, if. And I don't like if. I really despise the term if. I think if is a dangerous word. But Ben Rice adding muscle will allow some of those batted balls that were not getting out of the yard to get out of the yard. He has good opposite and center field power. Now, I want him to concentrate that power to right field just because he's going to have an easier time converting fly balls into home runs doing it. But if he feels comfortable with an all-fields approach, and he has, more importantly, the raw power to do it, then I fully support him going out and trying to hit some fly balls to left field and center field and get it out the yard when the pitch calls for it. You don't want a guy pulling a ball he doesn't feel like he can pull. Right? You don't want someone to hit in a way that isn't natural to them and is not beneficial to them. He had a 14.6% home run per fly ball rate last year. That's not happening this year, folks. Not with this power. Not with the power he's got. That number should be closer to 25%. And if that number is around, or let's say 20%, if that number is 20%, folks, this guy's going to mash. So 186 BABIP, not sustainable. It's way too low for a guy who hits the ball as well as he does. And people say he has a strikeout problem. What strikeout problem? 27% strikeout rate is high, don't get me wrong. But it is not 30%, most importantly. It's not ridiculously high. And his zone contact rates, or his overall contact rates, were right around the league average. It was a lot of college strike threes, which, look, those are strikeouts, and that's maybe part of his approach. It could be a product of his approach. But I think if you even everything out, you even out all the trends, I don't think he has anything that causes him to not be a... there's nothing in my opinion that should cause him to be have as low a BABIP as he's had. So I'm personally really excited to see kind of how things go, and how he continues to develop, because again, he could be a real stud for the Yankees, and he could make the Yankees. I don't want to be disrespectful here, but he can make the Yankees not really miss Giancarlo Stanton. That's how good he could be. Now, how good he will be, we won't know until he plays.
That we will not. Definitely a lot of storylines still developing here with guys like Ben Rice and their offensive profile, but I do think that Rice has what it takes. Another interesting one is George Lombard Jr., 19-year-old kid, looking pretty solid. Defensively, he's a star. Guy's got elite defensive upside. Question is, can he get it figured out offensively? He has a sick frame, by the way, for 19 years old. He's like 6'2". The kid looks like you look at him, you're like, this kid's going to be a star. Like, he looks like star makeup. Runs in his blood. It's the offense that will need to come around. Obviously, he struggled a little bit in high A last year. Ryan, I know you have probably a little bit more information than I do regarding George Lombard Jr. You guys may not even know much about him just yet, but what do you think about this kid? Is there a possibility the Yankees are waiting out at third base because they think he could get to the majors faster than maybe some people believe?
So I personally don't want the Yankees to act in that manner. I kind of always have hated that notion. I think you just import as much good talent as possible, but that's neither here nor there. That is, it's its own conversation and so on and so forth. But in regards to George Lombard Jr., I mean, look, the talent is enormous. As you mentioned, a phenomenal defender. He was the highest graded defender at shortstop in the Yankee organization last year, according to Baseball Prospectus's defensive runs prevented metric. He is a gem at shortstop. I think he'll be even better at third base if the Yankees have to move him there. The power is enormous. It's just a matter of the contact rates. He struggled a little bit with swing consistency, swing path, swing plane, whatever you want to call it. His swing decisions were actually good as well. The talent is all there. If the swing, which looked a little cleaned up in spring training, but if the swing is there and he's hitting the ball consistently and he's making contact consistently, we are talking about a player who I expect to be in the top 50 ranking for a farm system. And, people talk about the Yankee farm system in a way that I think is a little disingenuous. Yes, it is taking a step back. And yes, it is a farm system that, is a little underwhelming compared to where they've been in the last few years. But at the same time, it is one tweak away, or one guy becoming a star prospect away from being one of the highly touted systems in the league. George Lombard Jr. is someone who could become that top 50 guy, that number one guy for the Yankees. Then you see all the pitching talent they've imported. A guy like Cam Schlittler is someone who's a holdover from previous years. Rafael Flores, another guy who's like really I'm kind of excited by. Jesus Rodriguez has looked really good in spring training. George Lombard Jr. can head that next upcoming wave of prospects. And the other thing people forget, the Yankees have graduated a good amount of their top prospects. Volpe's graduated, Dominguez is going to graduate, Wells graduated, Heal's going to graduate, or Heal already graduated, excuse me. That's 4 players, 3 of them impact starters on a championship caliber team, and then a lot of them traded for championship caliber players. Drew Thorpe got traded to the Padres for Soto. You can't sit here and tell me that you wouldn't have traded Drew Thorpe for Juan Soto, even knowing that he would leave. Like that's just, I think it's crazy talk to talk that way. Will Warren will graduate soon. If he's a productive major league starter, you can add that to the list. Yes, the Yankees have had some duds, but that's kind of just how this goes here. I mean, who have been the duds of that class? Let's say it's Peraza, who his career is still not over, but I'm gonna just trend towards not really great. You could argue Cabrera's a dud, but I think it's a little harsh. I think he's better than a dud. He's solid. He's okay. He's not a win. He's a meh. Brito, Vasquez, those guys graduated. Are they duds? I think that's also unfair. They're solid pitchers at the major league level. I think that's better than what you would expect from a guy signed in the international free agent class as like the 100 and something best prospect. You have guys like you have a guy like Clark Schmidt who graduated a couple years ago. I would consider him a productive big leaguer. So the Yankees have done a decent job of filling their organization with imported players. I mean, or with homegrown players. Judge was homegrown, Wells homegrown, Volpe homegrown, Rice homegrown, Dominguez homegrown, Cabrera homegrown. The Yankees may have 6 of their 9 players being homegrown players in their starting lineup this year. You have Peraza's homegrown, he's on the bench. In your rotation, you were supposed to have 2 homegrown guys in Schmidt and Heal. You may have 2 again if Warren cracks that group. It's really the pitching staff where the Yankees don't have a lot of their homegrown talent there, which makes sense. They traditionally trade pitchers a lot, and they had those deadlines where they just traded every pitcher they had in the organization to get talent. The one I think that we're going to regret the most is trading Richard Fitz. He just hit 99 on the radar going with the Red Sox, and we traded him for Alex Verdugo. That kind of sucks. Is what it is. I don't really care. My point is more so like kind of tying it back to George Lombard Jr. He has the chance to kind of head this next wave of prospects, and then we look at this group in July and go, hey, they're pretty good. Which ones are we going to trade? That's kind of how just kind of the nature of being a contender, right? When you're in a contention window and you have good prospects, you've got to naturally decide which ones you want to trade and which ones you don't want to trade. I mean, there are other players and other teams that the Yankees have drafted and developed, and these guys are contributors. Hayden Wesneski is a major leaguer. That is a win for the Yankees, in my opinion. I could be wrong. People can disagree with me on that one, but I would consider that a win for the Yankees. They traded him. They didn't get a lot back for him because Efros hasn't been very good, but he is a win of a draft pick. The Yankees did draft a big leaguer outside of the first round. That's always going to get a thumbs up from me. Loizaga wasn't drafted or signed by the Yankees, but he was developed by the Yankees. Would I consider that a win? Yes. And then you have player development wins that aren't drafted from you guys. Holmes, that's a player development win. 100% a player development win. Is Brent Hedrick, if he established himself with the Yankees, is it a player development win? Yes. So I think the Yankees have a track record with player development that gets overlooked and underrated. And I think George Lombard Jr., his talent is there. The off-field makeup, you hear a lot of really good things about the person. And I think the Yankees can take the person and the talent and make it into a great player.
Absolutely. It seems to me that that's what they're trying to do and hopefully what will be accomplished. He's super young, so obviously a lot of development left to happen, but we're not going to rush the kid. And we think that, getting a veteran at third base is in their best interest because worst case scenario, Jazz Chisholm ends up leaving in 2 years and you have George Lombard Jr. ready to step in and fill a major hole in the infield. So that's kind of the other side of that story. But that kind of covers most of the pressing storyline topics for you guys. Obviously, there'll be more as the days unfold. We got you guys covered here on Fireside Yankees. Big shout out to our new sponsor, BetUS, as always. Make sure to like and subscribe, drop a 5-star review, drop your comments in the YouTube comment section. We'll catch you guys on the next Fireside Yankees episode.
Perfect.